So I'm here to explain a little bit about pointe shoes for those of you who are getting your first pair. So I have a partially sewn pair of pointe shoes here, but I just want to explain the different parts of the pointe shoe so that it could help you. So this pair is a Grishko, but it doesn't matter the brand. It matters that the brand of pointe shoe style fits your foot style. So this one works for me. So the different parts are, this is the vamp here, the part and the hard part in the front, so the front is hard, and the part that goes from the tip to here is called the vamp. Now some pointe shoes have short vamps and some have taller vamps. You can see this one's a taller vamp. Depending on the length of your toes, you will need a taller or shorter vamp. If you have really short toes, you need a shorter vamp, and then if you have longer toes, you need a taller vamp. Because if you have really long toes and you have a short vamp, it will bend right there on your toes, and you won't be right up on your foot. You'll get a funny bend in your toes. So if you have longer toes, you need a longer vamp. The bottom of the pointe shoe is called the shank, and is very hard. If you try to bend it, it's very hard. There's hard shanks, which determines how thick and hard it is. I use a hard shank because my feet are strong and I have big arches, but depending on how strong a dancer's foot is, they will either do a soft shank or a medium shank, or a hard shank if they have really big arches and strong feet. But most beginners would start out on a soft or a medium shank, which would be thinner than this, and it would bend a little more easily. Also the thing that varies in pointe shoes is how tall the back satin part of the heel is. If you have a taller heel, as I do, this part of my foot is taller, so I need this part to be taller. Some pointe shoe brands have shorter heels here, but for me that would slip off my heel. So it all just depends on the dancer's foot. So first what you need is a toe pad. I recommend the ouch pouch. Now I sewed these ribbons on, but they don't come with it. These are old, so they look gross, but this is what they look like. And the gel ones I wouldn't recommend. These have gel inside fabric, but the ones that are just gel tend to twist the dancer's foot. So these go over your toes, and then you can put your tights over it. You could also put these on top of your tights, but it seems to slip around less if you put your tights over this. Then you would put, then when your foot is in your pointe shoe, and I'll have to move this down here. I didn't finish sewing these. I like the crisscrossed ribbons or elastics. These will be sewn in the back here like this, and the ribbons are sewn on the front part of the elastic, and these will tie around the ankle. We don't need to worry about that right now. But when you're measuring the length of the pointe shoe, when you're standing on it, it should be really quite tight in here. So when I'm standing, I can feel it pushing a little bit on the tip of my toe, and it's quite tight in here. But the reason you need it that tight is because when you go up on pointe, these are very new, they're not even broken in here at all yet, which they should be broken more. When you go to stand up, you see all of a sudden that there's looser fabric here. That's because the arch bends and it gives you more room. So it's no longer tight on my foot at all. You want the width of the shoe, so this part from here to here, to be kind of snug on your foot, because it should be kind of snug here. Because when you go up on pointe, there's a lot of pressure that is put into the front part of your shoe, and if it's comfortably wide, as soon as you go and put all that pressure, your foot is going to slip into the shoe and the tip of your toe is going to hurt. Sometimes, depending if you have the wrong fit of shoe on, if the tip of your toe always hurts no matter how narrow you get it, then it's probably the wrong style. But if it's the correct style, and you get a narrow enough width where it feels a little uncomfortably narrow, when you go up onto pointe, you'll feel how it holds your foot up without, my toe is not pressing anymore because my foot is expanded a little bit here from being bent, and it's holding it up. So the tip of my toe is just kind of floating a little like this. We don't want it jammed into the tip of the pointe shoe like this, because that's not good for your toe. You want it to just kind of touch like this. And then indication that the pointe shoe is a good fit is if your foot is lined up straight. If you get like a funny twist, I can't do it in here, but if your foot is kind of angled like that, it's either too narrow or too wide or the wrong shape. So you'd have to go through all the facts to find out. But if the pointe shoe is a good fit and a good width, when you go up, your foot should be straight this way, and being able to be straight up. Now my ankle does have a bend here like this, which is okay, but this part of my foot is straight. And then the little bit of extra fabric here is okay because your elastic will be holding it on here. But you'll notice when I come flat, it is rather tight, very tight in here. So that's okay. And then also there's a drawstring that comes in some pointe shoes. So I could even pull the drawstring in a little to make it a little snugger on my foot so that when I come down to flat, that it doesn't just slip off my heel. So you could also use a drawstring if you have a drawstring. So those are the main things. You want to be able to have a soft enough shank that when you go up to releve, you're all the way on the tip of your pointe shoe and not stuck back like this. Because this is going to be where the natural position is. But you need a soft enough shank where you can get all the way up over the tip of the pointe shoe without having to bend your knee. Sometimes the pointe shoe just has to be worked in a little bit like this so that it can bend to your foot better like that. But also it could be if this shank is too hard. So that's one thing. Also breaking it in a little. Like right now these are very stiff because they're new, so I can't bend through my toe. But I have an old pair here that I could show you, that you'll see, that it bends through the toe because it's old, like this. And it's much, much, much softer in here, you'll see, because this is an old pair. So I don't even have to push into the arch. It has softened up because I've used it. And then if it was ribboned on, you'd see that it bends through the toes. When you have a really new pair, it's not going to bend until we break it in class. So right now this doesn't have a bend. So I'll have to bend it through myself and get it soft. But the biggest thing is making sure that you can be right on top of the tip of the pointe shoes. This also changes. Some of them have bigger bases and some have smaller bases. The tip of the box. A little bit bigger is easier for beginners because it's easier to balance. So just try not to pick one that has like a very small tip, but it all depends on the dancer's foot. There's not a exact science to which tip you should have, but you want to make sure you can stand right on the tip and not be stuck on the back end of the box. So all the way up, soft enough shank, a high enough vamp to match your toes. My toe joints are right here. So that's good. It's still within the edge of the vamp. So it's tall enough for me. If I had a short vamp down here, that wouldn't be good because my toes would be bending. So you need a tall enough vamp. And you want it also, if you're looking from the back, you don't want to have huge twisting where your heel is on one side and the shank is twisting to either the inside or the outside. You want a shoe that you can go straight up and the shank is straight up and down with your heel and your toes so that it's straight up. That's another sign that you have a pair of pointe shoes that is the correct fit. And then of course, after you get your pointe shoes, I would suggest that you bring them to me so that I can check them out in class before you sew your ribbons on, just in case they're the wrong size. Pointe shoes are a lot of money, so you want to make sure that they fit you well before you sew ribbons on, because once you sew ribbons on, they won't let you return them. And then I can show you how to sew the ribbons. Make sure when you buy pointe shoes that you ask them for enough elastic to do crisscross elastic, and that you get ribbons that can be sewn on. Most pointe shoes come with ribbons. If they don't, you'll have to purchase ribbons. So just make sure you have your checklist of toe pads. If you need toe spacers, they'll tell you about that. That you have convertible tights so you can pull them over your toe pads, and so you can take your toe pads on and off, and have enough elastic to crisscross, and have ribbons that can be sewn on. And if you have any questions, you can give me a call also when you're at the Pointe Shoe place.